Welcome. Let us learn tools and techniques and tactics to lead social movements, development initiatives, and corporate transformations. If you see around, you will see that there are some firms and individuals which are performing better than others and achieving stellar results despite weaker worlds. If you look into history, you will find that there were some social movements which turned the course of history and improved the quality of life of billions of people. If you look at leaders across the world, you will find that there are certain figures that turn into massive larger-than-life media influencing historical figures. Why do only some digital transformation drives were successful during the recent COVID crisis? The answer to all of these questions lies in something called as emerging science of change management. There is method to bringing the change, and if we use that method, if we follow that method, we get hard to imagine stellar results. But if we don't follow that method, we get subpar results. So if you are someone who's leading cultural change efforts at your company, or is someone who's leading mergers and acquisitions and restructurings, or is someone who's leading social movements, or is leading development efforts, you must understand what this emerging science of change management recommends. Dr. John Kotter, he is Professor Emeritus at Harvard Business School, and he has devoted his career to the study of change management and leadership. He published his first treatise on the subject of change management in late 1990s. The book was titled Leading Change, and it introduced a model called as Kotter's framework, and that Kotter's framework is being used by companies across sectors and industries throughout the world to tackle change efforts. But a lot has happened in the last 20 years, and the world has evolved very fast, and lots of new insights have come to the fore from varied fields. So Dr. Kotter, he has tried to somehow improve his methods and approaches and methodologies of managing change in his latest release, Change: How to Achieve Hard to Imagine Results in Today's Fast Changing World. So let us first discuss the research methods of Dr. Kotter. Basically, he has done qualitative pattern analysis of the sequence of actions of the companies and individuals and has elicited the practices which lead to success and failures. He has converted those practices into playbooks and has seen the implementation of those playbooks by executives in organizational settings. Plus, he has incorporated insights from fields such as neuroscience, organizational research, consulting practice. He leads a firm called as Kotter Inc., and that firm consults with various Fortune 500 companies, and lots of insights have come from that consulting practice. Plus, as expected, he has incorporated insights from fields such as business historiography, leadership research studies. And all of his research has led him to conclude that neither the companies nor the individuals, they have got the capabilities to tackle the fast happening changes that we are seeing in today's world. But the positive conclusion from his research is that the emerging science of change management, it can be learned, it can be taught. If we look at the world, we will see that lots of changes are occurring, and this information is evolving faster than industrial age, which evolved faster than the agricultural age. And the reason why the changes are occurring at very faster pace are related to the presence of myriad disruptive forces. The forces such as fast evolving technologies, presence of large number of social and political movements, and there exists a geographic integration throughout the world. Whatever happens in one part of the world, it impacts the other parts of the world. And the data predicts that the changes, they will occur at still faster pace in the future. Simultaneously and concomitantly, the world is facing challenges such as food insecurity, inequality, and climate change. But a big adaptation gap exists between the capabilities of the firms and individuals and the capabilities needed to tackle the fast happening changes that we are seeing in today's world. The companies and the individuals, they need to develop the capabilities to capitalize on opportunities that these changes are bringing. When the changes they happen, they do not only bring disasters, they bring opportunities. For example, when COVID happened, it brought opportunity of expanding businesses in the digital sphere. Also, the companies in today's environment, they are indulging in efforts like innovations, restructurings, and acquisitions at faster pace. So they need to handle all of this stuff efficiently and effectively. The emerging science of change management, it is replicable, it is teachable, and it is executable. You can somehow implement change management efforts in one company, in one sector, in one part of the world, and you can replicate that in different company, in different part of the world. I, as a manager or a leader, can teach these methodologies to my team members. And if we use this emerging science of change management, we can achieve hard to imagine results, exceptional, great results. And it's very vital to use this emerging science of change management to achieve those stellar results, because if we are achieving mediocre or good results, we are not giving justice. We are not justifying our potential. We are not justifying the resources that are available to us. As Ben Franklin has put it, when you are finished changing, you are finished. So it's very vital for individuals, for the companies to change and adapt themselves so that they are able to capitalize on the opportunities that this world is offering to them. Dr. Kotter, he has improved his methodology and approach of managing change by incorporating insights from varied fields. But the most important insight perhaps comes from the field of neuroscience. The human brain can have two different kind of responses to the social situations, and one kind of response is called as survive channel response, which is threat seeking, and another kind of response is called as thrive channel response, which is opportunity seeking. Let us first discuss the survive channel response, which is threat seeking. Consider there is a person named Rob. He's going on roads, he's walking on the road, he sees the bus is coming from the opposite side at very fast pace. He gets anxious, his heart starts pumping at faster rate. He's entirely focused on saving himself from the bus running over him. He shifts to the footpath. The heartbeat returns to normal rate. He returns to the normal state. Now, if we analyze this event, lots of chemical reactions are happening inside Rob's body. When Rob spots that danger, amygdala of Rob's brain, it sends signals to the brain's control center hypothalamus, and that activates the sympathetic nervous system. Epinephrine is released and the blood flows through the heart at increasing rate. That releases sugars and fat into the body. And this is a kind of an anthropological adaptation that humans have got in themselves. During the ancient times, when the humans they were in danger, a new big animal came to attack them. So what they used to do, what the body used to do was to somehow start pumping heart at greater rate, so that the fats or sugars were released, so that the individual could fight that animal or could flee from the situation. This adaptation still impacts humans' behavior. So whenever we get into situations of anxiety, our heart rate it increases, and when the crisis is tackled, we return to the normal state. The chemical release is stopped. This is a very vital response or adaptation that humans have got. It helps them tackle the situations of crisis. Consider there is a manager and he gets a call from the customer. Customer is disgusted with the customer service and the product delivery. He complains about the defective product that has been delivered to him. The manager gets into the survive channel response. He immediately calls a meeting of the customer care executives. The case is discussed and the new product is shipped, and the product is delivered to the customer within 24 hours. The manager calls the customer and the customer is happy with the product and its delivery. The problem is solved and everybody returns to the normal state. So this Survive channel can help the managers to tackle the situations of immediate crisis. But in today's time, when there is constant barrage of negative information, many times the survive channel response can turn into hyperactive survive channel response. And that saps our energy, that leads to perpetual anxiety, and we cannot spot opportunities, we cannot think of opportunities. And that is what we need to take care of. And let us now analyze a different kind of a situation. Consider that there is an entrepreneur and he's leading the chain of retail outlets. These retail outlets, they are selling fashion apparels. And the COVID happens, the people stop visiting the stores, the new business is almost zero, the revenues, they plummet. But the entrepreneur is not getting anxious, he's getting excited. He spots that he's got an opportunity to introduce his business in digital sphere. He starts a website and he introduces all of his products on that website. In a couple of months, he starts getting the leads. He starts getting the revenues and the profits. Plus, he spots opportunity of expanding business to new areas. He analyzes the data and spots that the customers, they are purchasing equipments like COVID masks or sanitizers. He introduces these new items on his website and gets enhancement in the business. So if you analyze this response, this is a very different kind of response. In this case, the parasympathetic nervous system is getting activated. The chemicals released are oxytocin and vasopressin. There is energy spike, but there are no extraordinary spikes. The accompanying emotions are excitement and passion, not the anxiety or anger. The response is not targeted at tackling immediate crisis. The person's field of focus is expanding, curiosity is being unleashed. This is a typical Thrive channel response. We need both of these responses to perform well in business. Survive is good for tackling fast crisis, but overheated survive is not good. That it saps our energy. The Thrive, it is optimum for innovation and collaboration. It unleashes our curiosity. The best leaders, they keep the survive alert and they make sure that the survive is not overwhelmed and they keep their Thrive activated. You as a manager, you as a leader need to understand these two different kinds of responses and manage these responses with your brain or your body and manage the activation of these two systems in your employees or team members. That is perhaps the most important skill you need to have to tackle the change effectively. Now, lots of research has been done on the structure of the modern organizations. The modern organizations in truest sense, they are relatively new. They have come into existence after Industrial Revolution, and their structure has remained same more or less in last 200 years. The modern organizations and their associated systems, procedures and structures, they are inherently designed for reliability, order and control. But lots of changes have been happening in the world, and the organizations, they have felt the need to become more adaptive of these changes. They have introduced new mechanisms such as interdepartmental task forces, lean structures, and more cultural tolerance for new ideas. New versions of strategies, digital transformations, restructurings have been introduced, new concepts like agile management have been introduced. And all of this is aimed at tackling the changes that we are seeing into this fast changing world and capitalize on opportunities that are being offered by these changes. But the inherent structure of the firms is not suited for today's fast changing complex VUCA world. Even in the tech firms where most of these ideas have originated, the original structure, the basic structure is not suited for tackling changes that we are seeing into this unpredictable and complex world. We need to understand from where these shortcomings have come and how the organizational structures they can be adapted, molded, and improved to tackle the changes that we are seeing into this world and capitalize on opportunities. Dr. Kotter, he has done lots of action research. He has identified the practices which lead to better results, but he has also identified the practices which lead to subpar results. It's vital to know the best practices so that we can get the best results, the great results. But we also have to learn the worst practices that do not lead to good results. So let us just acquaint ourselves with those bad practices so that we don't repeat those practices. Consider that there is a manager and she is entrusted with leading change effort at her company. She's excited about the opportunity and she sends communication to all of the employees. But that communication does not focuses on creating urgency. It is not communicating why the change is needed, why the culture of the company has to change. So urgency is not being created, the change efforts will fail. Now she is implementing the change effort with the help of small team that lacks leadership skills, that lacks relevant broader knowledge, and that lacks connections throughout the company. What will happen? The communication will not be effective, it will be underdeveloped, and the change efforts will fail. Now when she is looking to get the buy-in from the employees, she is using sophisticated arguments, rational arguments, logical arguments, but she is not using emotions. What will happen? She will not get the requisite buy-in because the managers, the employees, they are humans at heart. They've got emotions. So the change efforts will fail. Now when she's trying to implement this drive, the management is getting into the way. Management is not releasing the funds. And some of her team members, they are enjoined to tackle some other job. So what will happen? The change efforts will fail. Now amidst all this, she spots that in small part of the company, in one department, some people have started working according to the new culture. They have adopted new patterns of interactions and doing work. She's happy, but this short win is very small. It is only in one of the department. Plus, she is not broadcasting that short win. What will happen? The momentum will not be built. The credibility will not be there to provide impetus to the change efforts. The change efforts will fail. Now, when all of these conditions are met in positive sense, the change efforts are bound to be successful. But still many times the change efforts fail because the managers, they have tendency to declare victory too soon. they stop short of finish line. Consider that there is a case when all of these conditions are being met and people across different departments, they have started working according to the new pattern, according to the requirements of new culture. They have started adopting new cultural practices. The manager is happy. The manager is declaring victory. But the manager is not institutionalizing the change in organizations, systems or structures. So what will happen? The people, they will revert back to their old state of working. They have tendency to go back to their original state. So we need to understand that when we are implementing change efforts, we need to create urgency. We need to use teams that have got leadership skills, relevant broader knowledge and connections throughout the company. When we are looking to get buy-in, we have to use both emotions and logical arguments. We have to make sure that management is on board and is willing to share power. We have to make sure that short wins are sufficient in number and are broadcasted enough to create momentum for the change. And we have to make sure when the change happens, it is institutionalized in organizational settings and systems. Then the change efforts, they become seminal, they become sustainable. If we look across the world and have a look at the change management methods that are being used by companies, we will see that the change management drives, they start with creation of something called as burning platform. Burning platform is nothing, it's just a very specific kind of pain message whereby the urgency for the change is created by focusing on what can be the negative consequences of not changing. If the company culture does not change, what can be the negative consequences on employees or on company? When the change efforts, they embark on the journey with creation of burning platform with focus on negative consequences, it leads to survive channel response from employees. This can tackle complacency, but in today's world when we are seeing lots of changes, lots of disruptions, this can lead to overheated deer in the headlight survive channel panic. So the change efforts, they have to embark on their journeys with focus on what could be the positive results or spin-offs from the change drives. That's the better method to start the change efforts in today's fast changing, complex, unpredictable world. The change managers, they can learn a lot from the efforts or the movements led by the greats such as Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. These leaders, they led movements which brought change in the minds of millions of people. They led movements which were massive in their size. They led movements which altered the course of history. So the change managers can learn a lot from the methods that were employed by these great leaders. Let us analyze Mandela's case, Mandela's method. Now, Mandela, he became president of South Africa. In early 1990s, the country was in doldrums. The economy was in shambles. And there was severe racial tensions among the people of different communities. Unemployment was rife, and there was atmosphere of despondency. the international experts, political experts, they predicted that the country will go into civil war. Amidst those circumstances, Mandela instilled hopes in the minds of millions of people. He made them picturize the future where the economy was growing, where everybody was having access to high quality jobs, where the people from different communities were living in unison. He made them picturize that golden future, and that created emotions of hope, of energy amongst the masses. And this also led to Survive Channel response from some sections of society. They got anxious. So he tackled those sections of society by taking certain measures. For example, he started dining with the widows of whites. He introduced a mechanism called as Truth and Reconciliation Mission to somehow tackle the racial tensions. So this way he was tackling organizational or human barriers to change. He continued to talk of positive future and focused on creating short-term wins. Whenever in small part of the country, the people, they were getting results, economic development was happening, the people, they were living in unison. He celebrated those wins. He broadcasted those wins that led to spike in energy levels of people throughout the country. He focused on maintaining energy and urgency till the whole country was engulfed by new mood. He mobilized action not intermittently but at all the times. And the movement was executed with a very different kind of approach. He iteratively looked at the things that were working and the things that were not working. He tried to implement the things that were working. So this way he was able to turn the course of history and build a great nation called as South Africa. The nation is one of the important developing nations of the world today. It is part of important groups such as BRICS, IPSA. So the change managers, they can implement Mandela's method. If Mandela could bring change in the minds of millions of people, if he could lead change for a large number of years, they can also do that. The focus has to be on creating urgency, instilling positive emotions in the minds of employees, tackling Survive Channel responses or organizational barriers or human barriers to change, focusing on creating short-term wins and broadcasting these wins, making sure that momentum of the change effort is maintained, and mobilizing action and analyzing the execution of the change efforts to spot the practices which are leading to better results. The organizational leadership studies, they have elicited certain principles called as change principles by Dr. John Kotter. These principles must be taken into cognizance while we are planning or organizing or implementing our change efforts. The first of that principle is have 2 + 1 2. When we introduce change efforts in organizations, there are some employees who have got almost volunteer attitude towards change. I really like this new initiative. I think we should be part of this initiative. It really resonates with my views. So those people who have got natural predilection towards the change efforts that you are introducing, you have to give special consideration to those people. You have to use those 1-2 types. Plus you have to use organizational structures and there's instructions which can get people to adapt to your new ways. The second principle is head plus heart. When you are looking to get buy-in, you have to not just use the logical arguments, thinking that the managers, they are sophisticated, thinking rational beings. They are also humans. So you have to use emotions as well. When you use logical arguments in consonance with emotions, you will get better results. The third principle is management plus leadership. You have to somehow use organizational structures, procedures, hierarchies when you are implementing your change efforts. That's management. But leadership is about vision. It's about that vision that can instill hope amongst the employees and can lead them to action. So you have to make sure that you are using management plus leadership that prods them to action, that fills them with positive emotions. Then the fourth principle is select few plus diverse many. When you introduce change efforts, you will know that there are existing leaders in your company. They have got influence, they have got broader knowledge. You have to use them. That's how you build your momentum. But you have to unleash leadership from new people, from women who have been silent. You have to focus on capitalizing on the insights of as many people as you can. This way, your change efforts will become more effective and will bring better results. Now let us discuss an example of international treaty that got the world to act together. The story starts in 1913. Ozone layer is invented by two French physicists. The ozone layer, it is identified that it plays a very important role of making sure that the harmful UV rays do not reach the surface of Earth, and that keeps our biosphere and humanity safe on the planet. But in 1976, ozone hole is detected by the scientists. The hole is published in newspapers, is broadcasted by radio stations and TV channels. And since it directly impacts the citizens, it leads to almost volunteer action from the citizens. Urgency is created. A global treaty is signed. The treaty named Montreal Protocol is signed because of the urgency that is built throughout the world. And the treaty calls for ban on CFCs. Even before there was scientific consensus on the cause and the quantum of the problem. And why this treaty was successful? The treaty was successful because the stakeholders, diverse stakeholders were involved from the beginning. All the pertinent stakeholders, the scientists, the chemical industry, the governments, the NGOs, the people, they were involved in negotiations. And the treaty, it started with modest goals. Once it achieved those modest goals, it showcased early successes to the world, and that built momentum. The initial targets, they were revised multiple times, and eventually they called for 100% reduction in damaging chemicals. In 2022, ozone hole is smallest since its discovery. The world is on track to meet its treaty targets. The Montreal Treaty, it has been hailed as perhaps the most successful international treaty till date. Consider Paris Treaty, compare the two. Since it does not has all the nations on the board, it is not meeting its target despite the urgency that has been created by IPCC reports. Suppose that you are planning a cultural transformation drive or let us say digital transformation drive in your company. Now that drive will not fail because of the inferiority of technology that you are introducing. The drive will fail because of non-implementation of change principles, because of nature of your company's structure, or inappropriate activation of thrive or survive channel of your employees. The change efforts, whether it's social movements, whether it's development initiatives, whether it's strategic plans, restructurings, agile adoptions, cultural transformation drives, they fail not because of inherent technical reasons. They fail because of the reasons that are associated with appropriate implementation of change, science of change management. We have been discussing the various principles or the practices that you need to take care when you are implementing change efforts. But to get the best results, there's nothing more important than eliciting more leadership from more people. You have to get almost everyone in your company to behave as leader. And there are certain methods and approaches that you can somehow use to somehow unleash leadership from all the levels. First of the approach that you need to use is you have to focus on exploring leadership at all levels. The last mile worker might give you better insight on improving the operations of your company than your engineers. The women who have been silent, who have not been taking the leadership roles, they can bring new insights that can help you improve your processes. You have to get people across different departments at all levels to think about leadership, to suggest initiatives. And for this you need dynamic and organic organizational structure sitting alongside traditional hierarchy. The employees, the last mile employees, the last mile managers, they should have the mechanisms to introduce new initiatives based upon their experiences and understanding. And the higher levels of the higher echelons of the management, they should listen to those initiatives and should allocate resources for those initiatives. For this, we need lean structures. And it's very vital to create the right environment and culture. The culture whereby employees at all levels are encouraged to take on leadership roles. Where the employees are encouraged to suggest new ways of working. The leadership at all the levels, they have to value the unleashing of leadership from all the levels. The senior leaders, they have to encourage the leadership at all the levels through reward, recognition, and even accountability. But the most important thing that the companies they need to do is to tackle the middle management problem. When the change efforts they are introduced, they do not face roadblocks from the higher levels of management or from the lower levels of management. They face impediments from the middle management. And there is a reason why this happens. The middle management, it is in perpetual state of survive channel activation. because of lots of negative news, lots of criticism from the leaders, and the focus on outdated matrices that somehow lead to creation of negative feeling. These middle managers, they are in situation of despondency. Plus, they have to face conflicting demands from above and below. The compliance people, the auditors, they create impediments in their efforts. So all of this leads to negativity and lack of belief in new change amongst the middle management. So we need to tackle that, we need to identify that, and we need to make sure that the middle management is not acting as impediment to the change efforts. When we are having unwavering focus on opportunity, when we are engaging as many as possible, when we are giving them permission and air cover to take initiatives, when we are keeping the noise level down, when we are celebrating the successes, the short-term wins, we are bound to get hard to imagine results. Now let us discuss some of the tactics that you can use to calm your survive and activate your thrive. As I have already pointed out, this is the most important skill that you need as a change manager. It is closely related to emotional intelligence. So first, you need to do the stock analysis of your survive or thrive activations. You have to do a thoughtful and deliberate analysis of your thoughts and feelings. Are you being positive or are you being negative? Are you being full of hope or are you despondent? And you have to gauge the same across the company. How the different departments are feeling about the new change effort that you have introduced. Are they feeling energies and positive emotions, or they are feeling reaction, negative reactance? Thereafter, you have to somehow position yourself to lead activation of the Thrive channel across your company and mitigate the Survive channel across your company, hyper survive activation across your company. For this, you first somehow have to break the cycle of negative thinking if you are in that cycle. If you are in survive channel response, your survive is hyperactivated, you're feeling lots of negativity, you have to spot that thing, you have to name that thing, and that will break the cycle of negative thinking. Thereafter, you have to reflect on opportunities that are meaningful to you, that are exciting to you. Think about the concrete roles that you can play. Contemplate about what could be the positive results that will bring positive emotions and will lead to activation of your thrive. Thereafter, you have to activate thrive and modulate survive throughout the company. You have to understand what are the challenges before the company and what are the possibilities if it innovates, if it thinks differently. What supplier, customer, community or shareholder needs it is not currently solving. What if the new change efforts pay off? You have to apply change principles and get people to feel these positive outcomes and make them focus on opportunities. And you have to tackle the survive channel response. You have to identify the practices, the management practices or the outdated matrices that are leading to activation of survive channel responses You have to spot the communications that create negativity in your company. Take cognizance of only real threats and try to minimize the noise. And make your employees focus on opportunities. And once the tribe it gets activated, thereafter you have to celebrate successes and maintain the tempo of the positive emotions, which will lead to further set of positive emotions leading to further action. So these are some of the tactics that you can use to manage your survive or thrive channel activation and do the same for your employees or your team members. The emerging science of change management, it recommends lots of approaches and methods to leaders and companies so that they can achieve hard to imagine results. The first recommendation is apply the emerging science of change. Understand the world is changing fast. It is becoming more complex and that will become norm in the future. USSR breakdown, financial crisis, Arab Spring, COVID crisis, many more such events will happen in future and such events will happen at faster pace. But these events are not only bringing threats, they are bringing opportunities. The companies, they need to spot the mismatch between the humans and the company's tendency to seek stability and expected increasing change. They have to use the emerging science to lead change management efforts, digital transformation drives, restructurings, to manage their strategic efforts so that they are able to preclude perils and capitalize on opportunities. Second recommendation from the emerging science of change is to understand the human nature. The extreme events, the changes, and the constant barrage of negative information or the noise, it can lead to hyperactivation of survive channel. And the changing times and the change and the crisis, they need people to think about new ways of tackling crisis, think about new ways of capitalizing on opportunities. And that requires unleashing of curiosity, that requires widening of vision, and that requires activation of survive channel response while keeping the survive channel activation at optimum level. So what the individuals and the companies they need to do is they need to understand this human nature and the managers they need to make sure that they are activating the right mix of survive and thrive channels in their company. Then the third recommendation is to restructure the modern organization. When the changes they happen fast, they lead to survive channel activism that leads to risk aversion. And this is a result of formal hierarchies, systems, and structures. The command and control structures it does not fit with the requirements of adaptive culture we need to tackle the fast occurring changes. But as the companies they become bigger, as the organizations they scale, the structures are needed. The robust management practices are needed. The procedures and processes are needed to maintain the organizations. But the companies, they have to amend their structures and introduce dual structures, whereby they are keeping the traditional systems, hierarchies, and structures to maintain the stability of the companies, but are introducing agile and evolving networks to unleash curiosity, to encourage innovation, to give impetus to the leadership from emerging leadership from all the levels. Then the most important thing that the companies they have to do is to encourage leadership from more people. As we analyze what's happening across the world, we will see that the businesses, they are becoming more complex. Each job function is becoming more specialized. Look at data analytics, it's a very specialized job. Look at strategic planning, it's a very specialized job. But at the higher levels of organization, there is greater need for integrated decision making. Increasing specialization of the job functions and the requirement of integrated decision making makes it very difficult for the leaders at the senior levels to make decisions. So this makes encouragement of leadership at all levels very important. We need dispersed leadership model throughout the organizational team. And also the companies, they are shifting the nature of employees' responsibilities. If you look at the tech firms in Silicon Valley, they have got flatter hierarchies. And when they look for people, they look for people who can give them suggestions, who can introduce new initiatives. So they are looking for people who can provide leadership. And the connotations of leadership, they have changed for millennials. Now the leadership is not about infallibility. The leadership is not about that imposing charisma. The leadership is about flexibility, it's about inclusion, it's about sensitivity, and the tech tools, the technology tools, they can be the great enabler of change. You can use these tools to get people from all the levels to behave as leaders. The stakes are quite huge when it comes to using this emerging science of change management. Consider a company which uses these techniques and achieve stellar results. The employees will feel happy, they will feel passionate about their jobs. The leaders, they will retire with careers, with legacies, careers full of legacy. Jobs will be created, economic development will be unleashed. The communities, they will get the benefit. But if reverse happens, the company might have to close its operations, and unemployment might be created. The leaders might have to resign. So two very different kind of results can happen, and this is just one company. Consider the case of large number of companies, NGOs, governments that are working across the world. If they all start learning this emerging science of change management and they start implementing this new science in their companies, we can achieve much greater results. We can achieve stellar results, and that's what we need to do. Across different sectors and companies, the managers, the leaders, they need to understand what this emerging science of change management recommends. And that will help us improve the development indicators across the world, and that will serve the humanity. Thanks.